Welcome to Tales from the Trails, a podcast dedicated to uncovering the rich tapestry of human experiences. Each episode, we delve into the personal adventures of individuals from diverse backgrounds, exploring their defining moments, challenges, passions, life purposes, and reflections. I am your host, Brian Facciandini. Thank you for joining our show today. I'm excited for today's episode and to introduce our community to Elizabeth, known as Liz, Arnold, to discuss her adventures as an endurance athlete in running. Liz's adventures in life are nothing less than extraordinary. From her early roots in Charlotte, North Carolina, to a successful corporate career as a technology consultant at Accenture, to her path as an experienced marathon runner, Liz has excelled in all endeavors she's taken on. After leaving her corporate career for motherhood, Liz used her skills and experience to help consult and lead in areas of volunteering and fundraising for schools, nonprofits, and in the arts. She continues to serve on boards and councils, including her alma mater, UNC Chapel Hill, go Tar Heels, as a mentor to women in their top-tier business school. Additionally, other amazing organizations Liz helps or has helped with include the Denver Art Museum, Children's Hospital Colorado, the Colorado Ballet, and Colorado Academy, among others. Currently, Liz is a yoga teacher and wellness coach who provides support for healthy lifestyle changes, mindfulness workshops, and pacing or training for marathons and trail races. She also guides women's international running retreats. Liz, we are so grateful to have you here with us. Welcome.
Absolutely. It's fun to be here with you.
Nice. Well, I'm lucky to know you and have you as an instructor on my own healing journey through yoga. Let's embark on the trails of your adventures as an endurance athlete and coach. Tell me, Liz, what are your earliest memories of running, even just as a kid playing? Did sports or physical activity play a significant role in your childhood growing up in Charlotte?
Okay, well, for starters, it's so interesting to hear you call me an endurance athlete. I would never give myself the title of athlete. I stumbled into running. I grew up cheering, dancing, and when I think back to my high school career, the high school running coach did try to encourage me to join the track team, but practice was before school started, meant waking up early. My hair was going to be a big mess. So running came into my interest realm in college, and there was a track that was just outside my dorm, and I was in the business school at Chapel Hill, and one of the few, I think at the time there were 10% women, and what I learned is that running was an opportunity for me to really get my mind focused, to get my voice together, and when I was going in to talk to all of the people in my classes, running was a way to just get my thoughts organized and really get settled. So one lap around the track to kind of build and boost that self-confidence became 2 laps, became a mile. And then what I started learning is that running, at the time we didn't know that it was mental health, but it really settled me from a lot of different standpoints. It settled me. I'd never had a roommate, so having to live with somebody, all of those social things, being away from home, and just all those unknowns. And running really became a part of my life in college. Nice.
So early on, it just clicked for you, and a lot of it tied to you found that it helped with your mental health, let alone the fun of the sport. Were you go ahead.
Well, think about the early Well, it was early 90s, late 80s, and we didn't have anything to put in our ears. I think we had a Walkman with a cassette tape.
Right.
But, you would drop into your environment. You were just listening to yourself and your own ideas. And so in a world, especially like the business school and college and being female at the time, when everybody was maybe attempting to tell you what to think and how to feel and who to be, running became an opportunity for me to really touch base with who I was and what I wanted to be. So yes, there was a mental health, but also the physical strength. When you're aware of the capabilities of your body and what you can do when 1 mile does become 2. And in Chapel Hill, we have access to just beautiful trails. And so all of a sudden you drop into nature and that present mindset where if you believe in the flow, all those 5 sensories come into being, and the creativity and the problem solving. So if I've touched on the mental health element, just the physical strength and the physical self-confidence, then all of a sudden it was like, wait a second, I just busted out what I'm going to do to present for my, instead of a final exam, often we would have to do these final presentations, and the creativity just was at its absolute best when you're in that multi-sensory experience in nature, creative, heightened, because you're in your flow.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing. What about during this time period? Were you off running on your own often? It sounds like a great opportunity to get clarity, problem solve. What about running in groups or running with friends? Did you do much of that during this time period?
So in college, I did most of my running solo. And then when I ended up going into the consulting world, I had already realized that once again, this running, it settled me, it brought clarity. And in the world of consulting, I traveled a ton. And so when I ran, that's how I would get familiar with my new surroundings, because in consulting, we travel so much and you're working in different places. So it helped introduce me to my new communities, and also helped a lot with jet lag. And so those were my tools. And most of that was on my own. It wasn't until I got into my later years, after I had had my children, and I started running with people. So one of my first times running with other people, you mentioned some of my nonprofit work, and they would tease me because not only would I run the meeting, but I would run while meeting. And so what I would do is, a lot of times if we were planning this fundraiser, planning the silent auction, whatever my committee members were, I'm like, put your shoes on and let's just go after it. And it was so easy and great and productive to have that hour and a half moving. Maybe we were running, maybe we were just moving. But so I started running with other women and realizing, oh wait, we were having great conversations and we were challenging each other. And maybe we were solving some of those problems together. So I started running just bits and pieces with people. And then I had an opportunity. So one of the things I did, talking about coaching and girls and women, I did Girls on the Run, which is a nonprofit for 3rd, 4th, 5th grade young girls. And I'd take them on different runs a couple times a week, and you use running as a metaphor for, once again, confidence building, for just appreciation of self-care, and understanding how they see at the culmination of this program, this 5-mile, maybe it's a 3-mile race. They see it as something that's just so impossible, the summit that will never happen. And then bit by bit, they do it. And so you teach them that they can, and that there's a process in place for a lot of things in life that seem unattainable and seem like you can't.
Sorry to interrupt. What was your process in coaching them? Because I can see how you can't just go run a marathon day one, and to build them up, build the confidence, and then apply that to life. What can you share a little bit on what that process was for you as a coach and guiding them?
Well, so many things in life. It is trust in the process. We talk about that in the yoga room too, right? All those asanas that have been around for forever. But so it's trust in the process because the outcome we don't know. But if you have done what you can do, control what you can control, then whatever the outcome is, it is. And so part of the Girls on the Run process is having the routine of running, starting off with something that is attainable. The lap around the school, let's call it a city block, that becomes 2, just like for me for college. And the comfort of the short distances that become long distances. And also, this is a big philosophy for me in life, and that is bring in the fun. Because you've chosen to do this, and you want it to be joyful and fun. And so we would do scavenger hunts, we would have sticker climb, hill climbs, we would have snacks, just knowing how to integrate the joy in what's hard. And I'm not going to say that it wasn't fun, because it is fun. Just because something is hard doesn't mean that it can't be fun. And layering that in. But then I witnessed how those girls added the camaraderie to a group component. One of the ways that we built the distance was by a relay. So that way we were alternating, but we're also encouraging and bringing that motivation. And so I took the relay concept to a group of women. And when I turned 40, we are run like a mother. There are 10 of us, and we all have kids. And we entered a Colorado relay. It was a fundraiser for Outward Bound. In your back country, you do 280 miles, one of those 24-hour relays, right?
Yeah.
And that's really where it solidified for me, running as a team sport, because you're out there encouraging each other. And we all have good days and we all have bad days, right? No matter what our strengths are. And so, sometimes you're out there helping somebody with the right language, and then sometimes they're out there with the fuel for you, or the right words for you, or the pace for you. That's the other thing beautiful about running in a group, is it's not competitive, and especially running on the trail, which is my favorite place to run. And that's where I loved the name of your podcast, because it's when we are backcountry and we let nature be our soundtrack, right? It's our visual, and it really level sets the individual, and there's no jockeying. There's just that encouragement, and it happens on the trail. And can I give you one more example of that?
Please do.
So, and I can go into more about our Run Like a Mothers, and oh my gosh, we were entered as a team, and all of a sudden we freaking won. And I think that wasn't our goal, but we just trusted each other, we supported each other. And anyways, but in another team experience, or let's say a community experience for me on trail, was a guy in our wedding asked me to be his angel runner for the Leadville 100. So what you do is, the level 100 is that 100-mile race, and it's broken into 4 different segments.
The trail race? Mm-hmm. Wow, yeah.
So it's up in Leadville.
Yeah.
And there are, the first 50 miles you have to do on your own.
Yeah.
And then the second 50, they break it down into 3 segments, and you can have somebody come with the headlamps, they carry your water. And my buddy, we took off, and he was having a hard moment. And here we are, backcountry, because it's a 24 to 36 hour event. You're in the middle of the night running.
Yeah.
And the runners from Mexico, who Chris McDougall wrote about in his book, Born to Run, these are the guys who just crushed this race. And they're running on the trail, and their legs look like tree trunks. They're tall, they're handsome, they're running in the flip-flops, just minimalist, right?
Right.
And my buddy...
running in flip-flops?
Well, no, I'm going to come back to that, because you also talk about or ask about some of the lessons from running. But here are these guys who they win, they're so strong, and it's just part of their DNA. And my buddy was sitting on a rock or sitting on a log because he was having a moment. And these runners stopped to check in on him.
Oh, wow. I love it.
I mean, when you're out on trail, yeah, you care about your time and how you feel, but you care about the other people out there, as well. And so are you going to offer your electrolytes if somebody's got a muscle cramp? I mean, and I'm not kidding. People will help you stretch it out, rub it out. So that's another component of the community.
Nice.
In running.
Nice. I was reminded recently, and I didn't fact check this, but I believe Leadville is the highest city in the U.S.
It is.
By elevation, well, obviously. But to that, when I hear about trail runners, it always reminds me when I first moved to Colorado, and I love to hike, and so I was out hiking, and I'm huffing and puffing. I'd been hiking for a while, and here goes somebody or a couple of people running by me, and I'm just like, what? What are they doing? And then all of a sudden I learned that it's a thing. This whole trail running, and people are doing 20-mile races, 40, 80, 100. Was it ultra race?
The ultras.
And it blows my mind. I mean, talk about endurance athletes.
Well, and what's unique about trail running is the forgiveness. So if you talk about or think about some of the wisdom and lessons that come through running, so trail running, it's forgiveness. There might be a hill that is just so technical and so steep, you're going to stop and walk, and that's okay. You're going to maybe change your pace. And what's interesting about running with a group on a trail, some people can crush the up, and then they get to the top, and they're like, oh, I'm skittish going down, I'm hesitant. They don't have the trust in place, maybe. And then you'll have people who have the forgiveness to walk up, and they hit that summit, and it's like this dance, arms out wide for balance, and just this little trail dance as they're scaling the rocks. The other thing about trail running is, since it's not flat, and since you have all these elevation gains, the hill ahead that can seem quite looming is very symbolic of life, Is it going to just...
Definitely.
Is it going to be such an obstacle that you turn around? Or you just look at it and say, all right, step by step, let me get from here to that big boulder, take a break, and then see what's next. From that big boulder, I'm going to get to that pine tree and see what's next. You just break it up. Once again, it's that trusting the process, and the outcome will come. And with running, especially in a group, everybody's going to make it to the hill. Everybody's going to make it to the summit. And it doesn't matter who gets there first. There's no prize. There's no medal. You just supportively encourage. And then that's when you see different strengths in people. Because like I said, some people are going to take their time up, and then they're going to bust it down. And then they're going to have people who are pretty consistent with the elevation. One of the techniques that I do when I take groups out, because sometimes we are innately who we are, right? And you're going to have people who are just gunning and firing. They're going to want to be in the front. And then you have people who are just perpetually in the back. And what we strive for is an accordion effect, where I'll be back and forth checking in on people. But one of the things I did, this was in Spain, I started off our trail run, and I said, okay, today everybody's going to have an opportunity to be our guide. And everybody looked around. They were like, wait, what's going on? And I said, trust me, you're just going to get out there, and you're going to get on trail, and if you make a wrong turn, guess what? It's okay. You make a wrong turn, you just turn around a little bit, no big deal. And so there was a gal who had always been in the back of the pack. And when it was her turn to be in the front, just, her body language, her eyes, definitely outside her comfort zone, but she had her opportunity, and people do it. I'll let these ladies do it for, say, 3 to 5 minutes. And when she turned around at the end of that segment, she had tears in her eyes because she's like, I've never trusted myself like this. I've never known that I could actually be a leader, that I could have people's trust. And so, anyways, it's just interesting. You learn about people.
Yeah.
But it's important to have a different perspective and be in a different place in the group, a little in front, little in back, little in the middle, and mix it up.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think that's an amazing story to, we've had conversation about living outside of your comfort zone, and she did that. And then, wow, the amazing personal growth that she experienced in just a 3 to 5 minute leadership segment. And I'm glad you touched on that, because when you chatted about in the 40s, the mother group, and now it's your first foray into running in a group, and that was what was going through my mind of how that works. And do you switch off being a leader, or is it always somebody the leader of the pack? And so those are great examples. Thank you for sharing. And it's, again, no easy feat in all the trail running here, because we're at elevation, the lack of oxygen, everything that you have to go through. Is there a regimen around training for these races? Obviously there probably is, but what was that? And then I'm thinking more on the nutritional side. There must be quite a bit that goes into it.
Well, in terms of, training, what's so great about being at the Mile High City is that we have altitude in our favor. And I think whatever I do in terms of training, I try to simulate wherever I'm headed. So that way there's a little bit of familiarity. I think that yoga, practicing on a regular basis, is super helpful for running. In fact, when I got yoga certified, I was also training for the Chicago Marathon, and I wasn't sure how I was going to put in all the hours for the certification plus the training, and I ended up getting a PR for Chicago. So I think it really shows how those disciplines support each other. And then I also think that the breath work, there's a lot of breath work. In fact, there's a super cool book called Breathe by James Astor, and he provides a couple of techniques to enhance your breathing. And there's one that is specific for altitude type training, where you have the enhanced carbon in your lungs for a moment. So, and then the nutrition piece, I always choose just real food. And what you'll find is that ultra runners and trail runners will lean into just natural sugars, natural carbs, maybe even a little caffeine. When I was doing the level 100 pacing, here we are in the middle of the night, and there are little tree lights that come out in this beautiful tent. Almost like, a mirage of a restaurant here on the top of a mountain. And they were giving us ramen noodles, watermelon, potato chips, natural salt, natural carb, and I would say clean kinds of carbs. So I do have a couple of brands that I like. They're just super clean, but playing around with it, that's no joke. Just ran the London Marathon with a buddy. She did not test out what she was going to take race day. It's not a good recipe. Definitely want to try it out.
Yeah. And I imagine you're mindful of, given, all the health and wellness background that you have, you're mindful of your nutrition and diet on a regular basis. Do you pay as close attention every day, or is this only when you're prepping and or running long races?
Well, the answer to that is I just feel better when I eat well. And this stage in life, I have to be mindful about taking more calcium and more protein. And so the other thing is, not only what we're doing impacts what we're consuming, but things like age.
Sure.
So.
Nice. Awesome. So you mentioned a couple of times marathons, and you've ran over 20 marathons, and now you're pursuing the World Abbott Majors. What has driven this consistent pursuit of challenging distances in new races over the decades?
So my current line of work, yes, I teach yoga, but also my side hustle is the international women's trips. And I've met these cool ladies who are chasing the Abbott Majors, and it just intrigued me. So there's the 3 domestic, Chicago, New York, Boston, and then 3 international, London, Tokyo, and Berlin. And I'd done the 3 domestic, and I thought, well, wait. And so my daughter and I did Berlin together, which was really great mother-daughter experience. And then I was able to run London, which was really by myself. The first time I'd ever just done a marathon, just me. And when I think about running in community, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be solo out there. Well, the crowd support and the fellow runners, I mean, that community came in like nobody's business. And then one of my participants who had been running with me in the Italian Dolomites, she met me for dinner. And I had other participants, like I said, so I got introduced to this concept through my international running guide work that I do. And here are these women, we're meeting from all different places, now in London. Wow. And I've got one more left, and that is Tokyo, which is going to be March of 26. And submitted my application for that, so we'll see.
Congratulations. What out of the 20 plus marathons you've raced, I guess a couple of questions come to mind is, one, which was your favorite race and why? But then is there one or two that stuck out or that led to more personal growth, whether that be in your own life or with the running coaching that you do?
I'm like, how long is this podcast? I'm like, asking about a favorite marathon is like asking about your favorite child. So, which would be a lead-in, because one of my favorite marathons was Bilbao, Spain, which was a nighttime marathon, and I ran with my daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody's cheering in Spanish. And so my daughter, that's what the language she takes at school. I'm like, what the hell are they saying? And then, because we're in Spain, you start at 6, cross the finish line at 10, they give you a medal, and everybody goes out for gin and tonics. It's just one big party.
Yeah.
So that was super fun. But one of my most memorable ones was in Paris. I was there, and when the spire, Notre Dame, caught fire.
Oh, yeah.
So here we are the next day, and it was like watching the towers of New York, except for we were there in person. And you see it just turn that bold orange, and you know it's going down. And then people were wearing their medals around the city and singing and praying. And the collective, if you want to talk about community, seeing all of these people internationally, some people could communicate. We didn't even speak the same language, all of us, right? But we were there experiencing the same thing, same feelings. And once again, just that singing and the hugging and the feeling of connection and concern, right? This was a monumental thing that had happened. And it didn't matter where you were from. It hurt. And we all leaned into that. And, like I said, people just proudly wore their medals and respected the emergency care workers. There was no language barrier. It would be a moment in life when I could tell you there was no language barrier.
Wow.
So that was
moving and uplifting. Wow. So marathons are often said to be 90% mental. As you accumulated more miles and races over the decades, how has your mental approach to running changed and matured?
Okay, so, and it's interesting because as we talk about the marathons, really it's just fun to see. It's a really cool way to be introduced to a city and to travel. So these cities are on full display, and the marathon expos have an unbelievable vibe. Once again, it's just that we're all here to run. We all have that in common. Doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter your social background. And what I love about running is, I mean, it's very humble and does not require a lot of money, right? I mean, all you need are your shoes. It's very simple. Not a lot of fancy equipment. You can stay wherever. Hitting the trails doesn't cost any money. So you see a spectrum of people at these expos. And then back to the original question, just the evolution of it all. I think about this one marathon in California, and it was the Napa Marathon. And we all thought it was going to be just on rolling hills and vineyards and all this. Well, it was this rinky-dink, 100-person, you lap 3 laps in this park. So the snacks that they had laid out were literally at the picnic stand. And it was red licorice and peanut M&Ms, all this fun stuff. But there was no support. Like, you're drinking water out of the water fountain at the, public park.
Yeah.
And it was really steep and definitely muddy. So I'm with my 2 good girlfriends. And one girlfriend, she's just freaking out because Garmin had just come out. And we knew that the loop was going to be a third of the 26.2 miles. And she's freaking out. She's like, oh my gosh, we're going like a 20-minute mile and we've barely gone any time. And I'm like, you know what? Just put that watch, like, just toss that watch. We're going to step away from the watch. We're going to step away from any time or expectation, and we're just going to enjoy being out here and let this roll. Because what was happening is we were going up and down, and Garmin wasn't calculating all of that. It was just calculating between the spaces.
Yeah.
And then it ended up raining on us. I mean, we were just a trashy mess. And we went straight from there to the vineyard to drink champagne, which is not a good recovery drink.
Right.
Back to the nutrition piece of it. And so we caught a little bit of a buzz, and the locals there, it was interesting, but yeah.
Nice. Thank you for sharing. Beyond the physical act, what are the most profound life lessons running has taught you about perseverance, patience, and self-discovery?
So I would say one of the biggest lessons is humility. Once again, because there are days you feel strong, you feel like you've trained really well, and then all of a sudden you just don't have it for whatever reason. And so that humility brings acceptance. And then I would say what I really love about the running community is we all pretty much realize the glass is half full versus half empty. Mm-hmm. So I did have a scenario. I was rollerblading a couple years ago, 3 years ago, and had a pretty hard crash, landed and ended up breaking my pelvic. Wow. And I didn't know I'd broken it. So I was training for something and just kept running, but I couldn't get my running speed in place to be the, 8:20s, 8:40s, the 9-minute miles, things that I'm like, I knew my body knows what that feels like, and I just couldn't do it. So I learned that I ended up having this pelvic break. And I did run through it, which was interesting because there was a little bit of pain, and I think that runners are used to that discomfort and that pain and kind of running through it. And I worked with a really well-known doctor, a hip doctor up at Stephen Hawkins, and she also happened to be a Lindsey Vonn's doctor. But we realized that my continuing to move throughout this break and the blood flow and to keep it going. And so that lesson of just because you're in a little bit of pain doesn't mean that you're not going to move through it, and that there maybe even is something, a reward or a good outcome at the end.
Yeah.
And then also, Brian, I wasn't sure if I'd ever really run again.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean.
It's going to be scary.
Well, For me, because running is part of my life, it really defines me. It's one of the descriptions I use. I mean, I did not grow up as an athlete, but I now say I'm a runner.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine that void in my life. But, I stuck to my PT, back to some of those things that you just have to spend time on. And I trusted it to know this is what I wanted so badly. And it didn't matter. Maybe I would never. Berlin was the first marathon that I ran post pelvic break. I didn't know if I'd finish. I just knew, and I just knew that I would show up and do the best I could. And I ended up.
How did you train your mindset in putting yourself in a positive mindset and to hold that belief that you would overcome? I come from a discipline of believing that, I guess an easy way to say is if we focus on one thing, say, I'm going to get cancer, then you're probably going to build that cancer. But if I believe and focus on I'm going to remain healthy through my life, then there's a good chance that that's what I manifest. So during a difficult period like this, how did you build your mindset up in believing that you could do it?
I firmly believe that manifesting what we want is critical to achieving what we receive. This job that I have leading women, it's my dream job. And I was sitting on a chairlift with a good friend during COVID, and she said, "What is it you want to do? What is it you like?" And I said, "I love running, I love women, and I love travel." And it comes into being. I mean, we have to believe it and see it and want it. And one of the things that we discuss in our mindful clinics when we go on trail with the international retreats is that self-doubt that likes to creep in, and understanding tools and ways to not let that surface where it's an impediment. And there's a difference, between the humility and self-doubt. We have to also recognize that we're human and what our capabilities are. And so back to Berlin, I thought, well, I know what my PR is. I know there was a day and time in life when I could run a 3:30, which for professional runners isn't great, but for just an average runner, it's pretty damn good. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that, and that's okay. And so also level setting where we are in life and being, instead of being disappointed because I didn't have a 3:30, I was like, hell yeah, I just ran a marathon across the finish line. And that is good enough. And so the humility, self-doubt, all of that, but setting bars that are achievable, but still within the confines that invite the uncertainty. I was listening to podcasts lately, a friend of mine who just was saying that our dopamine level of our brain is actually linked to a certain amount of uncertainty. And then there was another podcast that talked about, we can choose the just the everyday and the mundane where we don't grow, or we can choose to operate in bravery where we do. We have a little bit of that unknown. But then the next level where we take that unknown is into fear. So we don't want to do anything unsafe, right? We don't want to do something that is not smart. We just want to do those things and try those new things that, create the dopamine. And it's not so much excitement, but it just, it's that zest and joy and reminding of why we do care about being alive and being here and making a difference and an impact.
Right. That's amazing wisdom. That's so great. Have you seen or coached any women that maybe, are going through hardships or see the world as a glass half empty, to where they decided to try running and then they've progressed and evolved into a glass half full attitude and more joy for life?
I have two women who come to mind, and I think through running, through just getting through that hill, going through the technical. We had a group in Spain, and oh my goodness, 7 days of rain.
Oh.
And the first day you kind of think, oh, second, and then finally we just put our jackets on, and we were splashing in puddles. You just change that perspective and make it fun. But there are 2 women who I'm thinking about, and it was through that process, through that just determination and appreciation for what it was. It wasn't an idyllic scenario with, the sun out. But, we're handrails on the coast of Spain, running in the rain. And one woman really, through that process of running and through the process of being on trails in nature, really moved through a really hardcore event that she had experienced back at home. And then another woman recognized that maybe she was not in a healthy relationship. And she had a lot of support from our retreat group in terms of going home and stepping away and walking away.
Yeah, nice. That's amazing. And that goes back to having a community, right? In the support of the value in the support of a community. That's wonderful. As both a runner and seasoned yoga instructor, how have the principles of mindful breathing and self-awareness from yoga directly translated into enhancing your mental fortitude during these long runs and races?
Well, I think that running is basically yoga, but in a forward or backward motion. So all of the alignment in terms of core, spine, foot position, heart lifting, all of the things that we practice in the studio are applicable when we're on trail. The dorsal flexion of your feet, the agility of your joints, the breath work that we do, how we position our head. I feel like that if we take what we practice and learn in the studio and take those out on trail, it really it enhances the performance, but also it is safe. It keeps us from having injury. And I think it's the secret for the longevity on trail. A lot of times people just kind of roll their eyes and be like, are you still running at your age? Should you still be running? But if we have the alignment in place, then I believe that it's something that we can do for the rest of our lives. And then the breath is what brings the calm. And the calm is how we settle our mind. So when things start to race in our brain and we just get back to that breath, yes. And there's a lot of cool variations in breath, the breath techniques and tips in terms of, and it's a little bit different because, we're taking it in and cleansing it a lot faster when we're on trail versus in the studio.
Yeah.
But those things definitely align.
Do you have different breathing techniques for running?
Mm-hmm. So, in through the nose and then out through the mouth, but you're using your core to kind of just pump and clear and expel all that carbon monoxide that's stuck in the lower lung. So a lot of people feel like that when they're cramping running, that it's something they've eaten or something they've had to drink. Usually it is your lungs and your core not working together to surge all of that toxic air in your lower lung. Yeah. And that's why they have you raise your arms, because that extends and opens up your ribs and your lungs.
Yeah.
So, and then also the position of your head, because when we drop our head, we cut off some of that oxygen flow. And a common thing for runners is to look down at their toes. So just that trust of looking a little bit ahead, 3 to 4 feet, which is an uncomfortable thing because people, especially on trail, they're like, I'm going to trip, I'm not going to see a route. But the more you practice it, the more you realize that your body has already prepared for what's ahead.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's a lot of trust.
Yeah.
It's a big lesson on trail.
Thinking about myself when I hike and same thing, trying to watch my steps. So I'm going to have to practice that and looking ahead.
Well, and then
I'm sure besides breathing, there's like some, life lessons you can learn by looking ahead.
Well, I was about to think of all the things you miss out. Like you just have
That
to
too.
look up and look around.
Yeah.
And maybe it slows you down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's another lesson in life.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
It's okay to take your time. And
Yeah.
that's really one of the principles when we go out on trail. I stop and take pictures and, take different views and perspective. There's never a reason to rush. And that it's those moments where you're a little bit slower and looking up and around that you see the family of deer that's nestled underneath the tree or that wildflower that's growing.
Nice. Do you practice breath work at home when you're not involved in either of these activities?
There's a practice called box breath, and it's in for, hold for, out for, hold for. And the Navy SEALs use that for stress and anxiety. And let me tell you, anytime that I feel where life is a little overwhelming, or I've gotten news from home, from my kids, from somebody I love, or I am about to do something that's a little bit crazy, then, you just, the box breath is a place I lean into a lot.
Nice. I think, if I recall, we might have done that for fun at the end of a class or two.
I know.
In the past.
I'd love to kind of mix up, even though we know that the postures are the same, and that's part of the practice and series that we do, is knowing and the recognition. But it's always fun just to have a little bit of something different.
Right. Spice it up. Keep it spicy.
Keep it interesting.
Nice. As a coach, how do you balance pushing your athletes to achieve their potential with ensuring they maintain a healthy, sustainable, and joyful relationship with running?
So basically, we're talking about just healthy encouragement. And one of the things is I never want to be like the expert. There's never anything to prove. It's always just helping the individual find their own secrets, the secret sauce. Like we all have these unbelievable gifts. And what's interesting is I would say the methodology I have, and people ask me this, it changes all the time because it's different according to the person. There's no textbook way for encouraging or supporting the individual once they're on trail. Everybody has their own perceptions and their own roadblocks.
Yeah.
And just really dynamically and in the moment, understanding that person to understand their needs.
Wow.
And that's what makes it fun.
Yeah. No. So it's kind of learning, coaching on the fly. But you have a breadth of experience, so that's obviously helpful, and I'm sure facing your own adversity, so those lessons you're able to translate and help these individuals out.
But they're all within the confines, like they're like the elements of breath work, pacing, alignment, hill technique, and foot technique for technicality. So those are 4 categories, and then the nuances are going to depend on the individual.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had people run uphill backwards. We've tried running, with eyes closed, and people are like, "Oh my God, this is scary! I'm going to fall." Well, actually, what happens is they just slow down and they feel the earth a little bit differently, their awareness, and all of a sudden, what they hear and what they're sensing. I've had people take their shoes off and run barefoot, and these things seem all so scary, just because it's new and different, and then they giggle and they love it because it adds to how they're learning and what they're learning.
Yeah.
Run, instead of jumping over the creek, run through the creek. Get your shoes wet.
Yeah.
And no harm done.
Right.
Maybe splash. Maybe take a little bird bath as you
Be authentic. Live in the moment.
Just, yeah.
Do things outside of what you think should be normal.
And, people
break barriers.
Oh gosh, I can't get my feet
Or
wet.
boundaries.
I'm going to get blisters, this and that and the other. And all of a sudden they get their feet wet and they're like, this feels great. Now my feet are rejuvenated and they're not sore. And so we've been conditioned to see things a certain way. And so when we allow ourselves to experience it outside of what we've been taught and told, we get to decide. And somebody might say, I still don't like the feet wet thing. And other people love it. Fun.
Yeah. Nice. How has coaching helped you evolve as a runner, or even personally in your personal growth?
Personally, it's helped me, just like yoga teaching. I'm so grateful for the appreciation of just everyone, every individual, the spectrum of people, because the more we get to know people, the more you appreciate people. So personally, it's taken me out of a lot of biases, and it's taught me exactly what I didn't know. And almost the more I learn that I didn't know. And then on the running front, when you see people talk about injuries and you see them run with these injuries or come into the yoga studio and they'll complain about hips, they'll complain about shoulders, and then you're like, oh my gosh, they're beating their head against the same wall. They're not willing to change, and they're not willing to receive the input. And so it's helped me have more self-awareness and also be willing when somebody's offering that wisdom to listen. It's really made me a better listener and not be so, well, I know what's best for me. We know those types, right? And,
yeah.
And we are that type until we're not.
Yeah. Nice. That's awesome. And what I wanted to share on this last bit is, the person that I've known with you, and everything that you share is 100% accurate, and you bring to life, you bring the best out of myself, out of others, as we're greeted by you in the yoga room. And it's amazing, the positive mindset. And so this isn't just Liz talking, this is how she lives life, in the belief and the will and all the gratitude. And it's amazing to, I feel fortunate and blessed that I'm able to, be in your class and to cross paths, a few times a week, and have this wonderful energy that you share, and I'm very appreciative for that. And so as we wrap up the show and a few other questions, and want to know what's one piece of wisdom or advice learned through your extensive running and coaching experience that you would offer to someone just sharing their running journey today, or starting their running journey today?
Well, you almost answered the question for me, and that is just start. The hardest thing is just to try, and to try without too many expectations, to try and not be disappointed. And whatever is the experience and whatever comes, welcome it and be grateful for that. Like, sit in that for a moment. Why this feeling, and why this response? And then go again, and then go again. And it's going to be different. And you're going to have that little bit of wisdom, and so it'll change. So just start.
Nice. And, applicable for anyone, but then you do a lot of work with women. For women who may have never ran, and they want to try it out, they want to start, where would you guide them into starting, whether that be on their own or finding the groups, that international women's group that you are involved with? If you were just advising someone on how to get started and where to begin that journey, what would be your best advice?
I would honestly say find a local running club, because these running clubs, they don't shoot it out of the ballpark in terms of achievement. It's really about being social. And so it attracts a spectrum of abilities. And you'll just jump in and you'll be able to talk to somebody or not. And I just was invited to participate in a run club called Cool Down. And it was interesting just to watch. People would run for a minute, walk for a minute. The ability to do your ability and to recognize that that's enough. I think that a big roadblock for a lot of us is getting in our own head, like this is the way it's supposed to be, look like, or feel. And then you jump in a group activity and you're like that, and you're like, oh, wait a second. This is how it looks and feels. This is real life. We got people walking and dropping out, turning around.
Yeah.
And so if there's a fear of discouragement, then join a run club.
Nice.
And don't be afraid of it, because trust me, no matter, even if you're brand new, chances are others are brand new too.
Yeah, nice. That's great. So if you're looking for exercise, you're looking to lose weight, you're looking for a community, a support group, get out there and run. Last question for you, Liz. If you could encapsulate the adventure of life through the lens of your running journey, what core message or feeling would you want our listeners to take away?
So Runner's World offered this super cool challenge, and that was on your birthday, let's say I was turning 57, what you would do is you would run a mile a day for however many years you've been on this earth. And I did that, just a mile a day. And sometimes it was pouring snow, and sometimes it was hot as Hades. And sometimes I was like, wait a second, I don't have time for this because I'm already dressed for the day. But you would just take a brief moment and just run a mile. And if you do that on a regular basis, running a mile really is just like brushing your teeth. And to do that every day, different times of the day, different places, no matter where I was, fitting it in, prioritizing it. And what I experienced was such a lesson in finding something that makes you feel alive and doing it every day. Yeah. And there was this it was Halloween. I was visiting my mother in North Carolina, and it was 11 o'clock at night. I'd flown and I realized, oh my gosh, I haven't done my mile. And I didn't want her to know that I was going out at 11 o'clock at night because she'd worry about me. And I was like, it's just down the street and back. I know this. And I take off, and all of a sudden I feel this like sharp thing scraping the top of my head. And it was Halloween, and I was like, shoot, witches are real. But it turned out I had my hair in a braid, and this owl thought that I was his prey. Oh. And seriously, so that talon did not break skin, and the owl and I hung out.
Oh
and
my gosh.
He watched me run and flew with me a little bit home. I think he was kind of curious because I wasn't what he expected, nor was he what I. And in that moment, if you don't get out there, life's going to pass you by. And you don't know what you're going to see, who you're going to be introduced to, what you're going to witness. So just jumping in that current of life, and whether it's running or whatever it is, do it on a daily basis, best able, so that life will present you all of these just gifts, right? And it's out there. But being present and participatory in it so that we see it, we don't miss it.
It's beautiful. It's so amazing. What a great experience with nature and all the lessons you've learned, personal growth within your running experience. It's so amazing. And I hope that this show and Liz's adventures and what she shared and guidance, and through her experiences, you're inspired, motivated. I know that. And that you get out there and run, or you get out there and lead a better life. And that's amazing. Or maybe stop by if you live locally in Denver, passing through to one of our yoga classes at Tulahat Yoga. But I encourage you folks to get out there and run. Thank you, Liz, for joining us today.
Thanks,
It's been
Brian.
a pleasure.
So fun.
Cheers. Thank you, everybody. We hope that you have a wonderful day and good luck out on the trails.